Don't look at it, please.
If we get into this next topic here, we talk a lot about retirement techniques and strategies, but we also talk about how the public, the average person, is conditioned by Wall Street. And I mentioned at the end of the last segment, one of the sneakiest tricks institutions or banks they could potentially be doing. And this is just a hypothetical thought.
I can hardly wait to hear this.
Now think about this. The public is trained and conditioned by Wall Street, the public, the brokers, to read books, go online and do research. There's the thing called YouTube out there where there's a ton of stuff that people can go and research about trading and investing.
Right.
Now, the public is conditioned to do a certain amount of things. They're especially in retirement accounts, they're conditioned to buy and hold. Now, think about this. Is it possible the banks and institutions could be creating a lot of this content and persuading the public to do certain things, especially in retirement accounts? So, Al, kind of break that down, why the public is doing really the same thing, and we have a retirement crisis. Think about that. What is the logic there?
Well, first of all, I would say replace that word "is it possible" with "it's probable" that they're doing that.
There you go.
Well, think about it. In any trade or any investment, there's two sides to it, right? If there's a buyer, there has to be a seller. If there's a seller, there has to be a buyer. We talked about this last week, I believe, where the majority of the trades are controlled by Wall Street, by the pros.
It's about 80% or so.
It's about 80%, which means there's a good chance you could be on the other side of a trade. Do you think that they will go into a trade not doing everything they can to put the odds in their favor? Might they misrepresent things to be able to do that? I mean, how many times have you seen articles about companies being fined for manipulating things?
And Al, do you know that with social media and internet, is it all true? Think about this. If I were to put on online somewhere that I'm a French model, would you believe that?
I would not. Absolutely. No offense, Matt. But no, but you can say anything you want. And I think a lot of people now are aware of what happened. Again, I'm going to mention the GameStop situation where there was a huge amount of shorting by the professionals. Well, sometimes the pros will do that and then put out stories about something with the intent of driving the price down. There can be opinions out there, and there's often news articles, and there's often things that are put out by people that want you to take the opposite side of what they're doing. A lot of the pros out there will tell you that they make their living off of the emotions of the average trader.
Yeah.
And what we mean by that is that we are conditioned, as you mentioned earlier, we're conditioned basically to do a one-way kind of investment. That's buy and hold with the hope that something will go up in value. But our emotions get involved, and as a human being, that fear and that greed emotion is going to have you doing the opposite of what you should do. And when you look at a market, I think I mentioned earlier the potential for that euphoric point in the market. That's typically at the peak of a market. And when we see, if you go back and you look at all of the ends of a bull market, you see this froth, this intentional or this increase in buys by the public primarily just before it rolls over. So it's important to understand to control your emotions. That can be the riskiest point. Probably the best time to enter into a trade is when the market has crashed.
Yeah. How do we get out of that mindset, though? How can we get out of the mindset of doing what we're told and doing what we should be doing?
Well, you have to. It's a hard thing to do, but it's easy if you have a set of rules you follow.
There you go.
And it's a step-by-step set of rules. And that's what we've done. Our core strategy, the Online Trading Academy core strategy, is based on a number of steps that you go through, which are rules-based. And those rules are kind of customized to you as an individual. One of them is risk. How much risk are you willing to take on any individual trade? Maybe it's only $50 or $100. What if you could plug that into a trading platform, and that platform will tell you if you're going to exceed that risk? What if there are things in there that are specific to your style of trading, and by putting together a potential trade, you're violating those things? Wouldn't it be great if that platform would tell you with an alert that comes up and says, hey, this is violating your parameters. This is exceeding your risk level. That's what we call Click. It's a platform that our students have access to, which is basically kind of a decision-making assist platform analysis tool that makes you follow those steps. And if you do that, that takes as much as possible the emotion out of trading.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought, it's really coming down to is having a plan, having rules within that plan, a step-by-step strategy, and then executing.
Correct.
That's what it comes down to. If you lack that, it's education. You have to learn how to do it. It's a skill that you can build, and it starts by learning some knowledge. Al, you brought up an interesting concept, I guess, platform. You mentioned, our sponsor, Online Trading Academy, has their own proprietary platform to help people with their decision process. And that's one of the things that people are afraid of. People are afraid of making decisions.
Right.
I mean, what is the most common thing you hear with, say somebody wants to purchase something anywhere? What do they say? Oh, I need to think about it.
Right.
But think about this. Imagine if you had a platform to guide you through your process, so you don't have to think about it. You're executing based off your strategy. And we're seeing more and more people want to understand how to self-direct their retirement accounts, but doing that with confidence. So explain a little bit more about this platform and how that can potentially help people with that confidence.
Yeah, the platform really was built by the Online Trading Academy around that core strategy and around some proprietary tools that they have that will help you go from looking at a potential trade or an investment to the point where it's going to tell you, basically it's going to grade, it's going to qualify that trade. So it'll help you make a decision. If it's a high qualification, then that may be a trade that's going to give you those odds that we talked about. And if you are, violating your risk level, because that's the most important thing. Number one is control the potential that you're wrong. And if you're wrong, then don't let it take your money away. You want to make sure that you are protected there. All of those things are part of that click strategy, but it's an analysis platform, a trading analysis and education platform. Education is built right into it. And it's something that it's probably, it is the only platform that I'm aware of anyways that will actually tell you to stay out of something.
Yeah.
And that's really important. It's keeping you away from doing something that is wrong, that's not in your benefit. So, it gives you that ability to, qualify a trade. And again, nothing is going to be 100%, but you have to put those odds in your favor. And you do that by following, number one, a foundational strategy that helps you to time the entry and the exit. And then also that it helps you to control your the risk part of the trade, because that's something that should be managed. And it also is going to tell you to stay out of something if it is not in your best interest. Now, the assets that you trade, we talked about futures, forex, and options. Nobody is born with the ability to do that. Nobody is born with the ability to fly a plane or to do surgery. You go through education. You go through a learning process to do that. The same thing is true in trading and investing. It is a process. The learning part of it is a process. It's a journey you follow. It starts with the knowledge, but unless you know how to apply that knowledge, when to apply it, and why you're applying it, really is of no value. That's all part of the education that we provide. And there are places that somebody could go to maybe learn about options. There's another place they could go to maybe learn about the foreign exchange market. A third source maybe to learn about futures. And that's typically the education sources out there are kind of specialized into one of those assets. We have classes in all of them because we know that you come into one of the Online Trading Academy classes that Josh has been talking about. We know that people that aren't familiar with those assets probably don't know which one would benefit them or if any of them would be beneficial to them. That's part of what we do in those classes to help you decide whether this is something that is right for you, and then to help kind of guide you towards an asset that might be best for your particular situation.
Yeah, and that's pretty important too, because everybody has a different objective on why they want to get into the financial markets. And I always tell people, and that's one of the great things about Online Trading Academy, our sponsor. They talk about, okay, find out your why. What is the real reason for jumping into the financial markets? It's not just money. What is it going to do for you? Is it going to build more confidence going into retirement, understanding that, okay, yes, I might be able to do that. What is that pathway to get there? And that's one of the great things is when you do have a plan, you have that reason. And that way you work towards that plan. Now, we've been talking a lot about a plan. What is your why? What are the reasons? What are the steps within that? In the next segment, I want to talk about how to get that plan started, how to do that if you've never traded and invested before, because we get a lot of people that haven't traded and invested. They're investing in retirement accounts, but don't really know what's going on. So coming up next, how to get that plan started. This is Josh and Al, Investing with Confidence. We'll be right back.